on this Friday night. Korea's rival political parties are going to great lengths to meet halfway on a key free trade deal with China. This as deadline looms for the FTA to be ratified this year. South and North Korea agreed to a vice-ministerial dialogue next month. They have managed to keep the dialogue mood afloat, but what about major pending issues? We have an analysis. And Black Friday craze gets well underway in the U.S., but it's no longer a shopping spree limited to those in that country. With e-commerce and online stores flooding the net, Koreans are jumping in to stem a drop in mega discounts. News Center begins right now. A very good evening to our viewers here in Korea and hello to those around the world. I'm Moon Connyoung. You're watching News Center. Korea-China FTA is the point of contention at the moment between the country's two political parties. But instead of locking horns, lawmakers are attempting to meet halfway. They have agreed to work towards ratifying the Korea-China free trade deal next week. Even so, as our parliamentary correspondent Kim Young-gil reports, there are obstacles standing in the way.
The ruling Saenuri Party has set a deadline of next Monday or at the latest Tuesday or Wednesday for ratification of the Korea-China FTA bill. The ruling bloc called for the opposition's cooperation in order for Korea to benefit from tariff rate cuts from the end of this year.
It's imperative we ratify the Korea-China FTA bill on November 30th to benefit from tariff cuts. Economic revitalization bills must also be passed to run our economy smoothly.
Flow Leader once said if the trade pact takes effect within the year, the government estimates that Korean companies could save some $5 billion in tariffs. However, the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy said the parliament should further discuss support measures for agriculture and industries that could be adversely affected by the trade pact.
I think the Saenuri Party is turning a blind eye to potential damages to the agricultural sectors. There's no sincerity. Sometimes I really feel the urge to walk out of the room.
The MPD urged the government to devise effective measures to guard against a massive influx of cheap Chinese agricultural produce other than rice, and said that the government cannot focus on subsidizing rice farmers any longer. Meanwhile, President Park Geun-hye has once again urged the parliament to ratify the accord by next Monday, or risk potential losses of $4 billion per day in exports. Seoul and Beijing signed the free trade deal in June, but it has yet to be ratified by the respective legislatures of the two countries. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
Well, as the rival parties agree to make one more attempt at narrowing the differences in approving the Seoul-Beijing free trade deal, the government once again urged politicians to swiftly pass pending bills that are critical to the economy. Meanwhile, Korea's finance chief took an aim at resolving long-term issues like youth unemployment. Our Hwang Ji-hye reports.
Korea's traditional growth engine exports have dropped every month this year, causing major headaches for economic policymakers. Last month saw the biggest drop in exports in more than 6 years, casting a dark cloud over the country's investments and production as well. To combat the trend, Finance Minister Choi Kyung-hwan called on lawmakers at an economy-related ministers' meeting on Friday to swiftly pass pending free trade deals at the parliament.
In order to raise our export competitiveness and breathe new life into local exporters, the government is desperately anticipating the passage of 4 pending free trade pacts at the National Assembly, including the one with China.
Also up for discussion was boosting jobs overseas for the youth. The government aims to double the number of young Koreans working abroad from the annual 5,000 as of last year to 10,000 in 2017.
The government aims to diversify the types of overseas jobs to include technicians and jobs in prosperous industries, as currently most are from the service sector, which does not require high skill levels.
The government will adopt different training programs for young job seekers interested in working in one of the 15 designated countries identified as having ample job opportunities. The countries include the United States, Japan, and Singapore. Hwang Jie, Arirang News.
The world's second largest economy, China, is threatening Korea with its rapidly advancing manufacturing technologies. A recent study shows that Chinese companies will overtake their Korean competitors, possibly as soon as in a little over 3.3 years. Our Lee Ji-won has more.
China has been increasingly showing competitive prowess in the global hard disk drive market by aggressively investing $19 billion to acquire SanDisk Corporation through Western Digital. This acquisition will make China's Tsinghua Unigroup the major shareholder of possibly the largest digital storage company by revenue in the world, posing great threat to established market leaders Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix. But Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix are not the only Korean companies facing uncertainty. According to research by the Korea Institute for Industrial Economics and Trade on 708 local conglomerates and small and medium enterprises, Korea's competitiveness in manufacturing technology will be caught up by China in 3.3 years as of 2015. The number shows a sudden narrowing in the gap as it was 3.7 years just 4 years ago. Korea's heavy industry still has 3.5 years of advantage, but the gap in light industry, including consumer electronics, plunged to 2.9 years from 4 years in the last research. Information and communications technologies industry is most likely to be caught up first in 2.6 years. China's hot pursuit poses a worrying threat to the future of Korea's economy.
China's manufacturing technology will continue to grow rapidly, and if it does surpass that of Korea, Korea will suffer from decrease in exports, leading to lower economic growth. Furthermore, Korea will not only lose its place in the Chinese market, but in the global market as well.
Some experts say in order for Korea to keep its lead, continuous research and development is a must, on top of government support such as regulatory reforms and budget for entrepreneurs to come up with more innovative products. They also added that cooperation among businesses can contribute to boost the country's leading position. With the additional threats of a sluggish global economy and China's excessive production capacity, it is all the more urgent for Korea to maintain its technological competitiveness. Lee Ji-won, Arirang News.
Delegates of South and North Korea met for working-level talks on Thursday in the northern side of the truce village of Panmunjom. But the initial round of dialogue yielded few results, some were quick to point out. Officials from both sides agreed to vice-minister-level talks on December 11th at a jointly run industrial park. Well, the agreement is seen by many as another indication that the two Koreas are indeed working towards a thaw in their relations. Arirang News' Connie Kim is live in the studio with me to discuss the details. Connie, the agreement was made literally at the 11th hour.
Right, Konyang. In the very early hours of Friday morning, the two Koreas finally agreed to hold vice-ministerial level meetings on December 11th at the Inter-Korean Kaesong Industrial Complex. Now, the reporters there were quite surprised that the meeting ended sooner than they thought. I heard many were expecting the meeting to drag on for days, as the previous meeting following the North's landmine provocation in August took nearly 2 days to come out with a tangible result. Now, a unification official there told us that the two Koreas saw the need to hold talks ASAP and that they agreed on the level which prevented the meeting from getting longer. But the holdup between the two Koreas was setting the agenda. The ministry official told the reporters the South pushed for holding regular reunions for Korean War separated families, while the North's priority was put on resuming the long-stalled Mount Kumgang resort tour.
Well, Connie, how likely is it that both Koreas will get what they want? So Pyongyang agreeing to holding these Korean war-separated family reunions on a regular basis, and of course Seoul agreeing to resume the Mount Kumgang tours.
Well, Connyoung, the chances for that currently are very slim. The Unification Ministry official told reporters that holding family reunions on a regular basis will not be conditions for resuming tours at the Mount Kumgang resort. Now, unlike the halted Mount Kumgang tours, the family reunions are seen as a humanitarian issue. And in fact, this is what experts also echoed as an important factor to bringing out tangible results from the talks.
The South wants the North to apologize for the shooting of the South Korean tourist and to ensure preventive measures so that such accidents never happen again. South Korea also wants an apology for the sinking of the warship Cheonan and the shelling of Yeonpyeong-do Island, which led to the economic sanctions on the regime.
So, Connie, which other agenda items are expected to top the discussions table at the next round of talks? Did you get any word after the joint press release or joint statement release?
Well, actually, the Unification Ministry official was very hesitant to specifying the agendas that will be discussed for next month. What they did say was that inter-Korean civilian exchanges will be discussed actively, such as joint sports events, as an official hinted. Also, the possibility of raising the level of talks was also hinted if the vice-ministerial meeting is not enough to solve pending inter-Korean issues.
Well, I was wondering, what about the location of the vice-ministerial talks that is set to take place on December 11th? If it were to have been in accordance to the August 25th agreement, it should have been either Seoul or Pyongyang, right?
Right. Reporters exactly were asking the same question, asking if it weren't a breach in the agreement reached in on August. It did state that the two Koreas will hold government-level talks in Seoul or Pyongyang, and officials did make clear that it wasn't a violation of the statement and added flexibility is needed. And an expert I talked to also said the venue is not an important issue for the upcoming talks in December.
It would make sense for ministerial meetings to be held in Seoul or Pyongyang. But with the next meeting being a vice-ministerial one, the venue is not an issue as long as they maintain momentum for next talks.
Analysts say what's important to note here is that the two Koreas are willing to talk and that there is not going to be any major breakthrough in December, but say that it's important to note that this is going to be the first series of the many talks that will come soon.
Right. I mean, I suppose keeping the momentum, keeping this mood of dialogue afloat seems to be the key focus of both Koreas. And we'll have to wait and see what comes out from this vice-ministerial talks next month, whether it will actually be held on schedule and how it will lay the foundation for the future of the two Koreas. Well, right. Connie, great reporting. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Nothing has changed in North Korea in terms of human rights conditions. That's according to UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in North Korea, Marzuki Darusman, during his visit to Seoul this week. Mr. Darusman has been working on collecting evidence on the abysmal human rights situation in North Korea and calling for improvement for the past 5 years as the UN Special Rapporteur. I sat down with Mr. Darusman during his last official mission to Seoul this week. I asked if he could lay out for us the specific violations of the international law Pyongyang is or has committed.
The Commission of Inquiry found that these violations that have been alleged to have been committed by the government, so these are state-induced and directed, sponsored violations. Violations qualify as crimes against humanity, and therefore they are in total breach of international law. Based on reasonable grounds, we believe that, in fact, these violations have taken place and continue to take place. Let us go and see together, allow the United Nations to visit.
Well, so based on these findings and these evidence, you called for the referral of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un to the International Criminal Court. Is that feasible?
Now, of course, it's known that any referral to the ICC would have to have the endorsement of the Security Council, which is where it is at this moment. The report of the Commission of Inquiry has been accepted by the Security Council as a permanent agenda item of the Council to be debated hopefully this coming month. It would continue to be a significant fact of political import that North Korea is aware that this has reached the highest political body in the United Nations. And that in itself is symbolic of the resolve of the international community to seek ways for an accountability.
Well, one of the recurring themes or recurring points when we talk about human rights violations in North Korea seem to be the issue of separated or divided families. Is there anything a practical solution to that?
Simple. Make these reunions much more frequent. Open up to greater numbers. Not only is it a humanitarian issue, but it is also a human right in terms of the family being the basic unit of a society. Family reunions are a right in and of itself.
But can that be enforced?
That cannot be enforced. It needs to be realized by both parties, by the North Koreans, that if so many members are prevented from meeting their kin, the burden will be on the North Koreans. This has to be given priority.
Let's talk about the protection of refugees. So those leaving North Korea, crossing the border into South Korea, with a desire to leave that regime. What kind of efforts can be made by the international community to protect them?
Well, the international law is very clear on this. First of all, any citizen of any country has the right to leave and enter his own country, which is not the case with North Korea. That is the source of the issue. Everything else is secondary. But if we don't resolve that right and restore that right to the people of North Korea, then all the other problems then arise. Then the neighboring countries, depending on their relations with North Korea, may feel obliged to return these citizens, as if these citizens are owed by the state, as if these citizens are the possession of the state. International law is also very clear that anyone that flees a country because of repression, because of their rights being denied, will need to be protected by every state and to be allowed to choose to go to a third country of their choice. Now, this is the issue, and that will have to be addressed by the international community, by voicing concern that if these people are returned, they will suffer a horrible fate. A country that apprehends North Korean citizens that have been able to leave the country, in fact to flee the country, will be in breach of international law if they return these citizens against their will.
The Islamic State group's latest release of video renewed its blanket threat to 60 countries standing against it, spreading the fear of possible terrorist attacks throughout the world. Among a shot of 60 flags featured as part of what ISIS dubs the global coalition against it is the Korean flag. Kwon So-ah reports.
No respite. That's the ominous title of the Islamic State group's latest propaganda video. In it, the extremist group mocks the United States for its military tactics, shows off the size of its territory, and most concerning of all, it threatens the world with more terror. The video shows the flags of 60 countries under the title The Global Coalition Against the Islamic State and includes the Korean flag.
So bring it on, all of you. Your numbers only increase us in faith, and we're counting your banners.
Experts say Korea is no longer a safe haven from the threats posed by ISIS, as this is the second time the terrorist group has included South Korea in its propaganda media.
And that in a very short span. The country was listed as a potential target in the September edition of the group's magazine, Dabiq. The provocative media is making Koreans feel uneasy. Middle East experts say Korea has become a potential target, especially as it recently voiced support for anti-ISIS policies.
In the past, I would have thought ISIS wouldn't come to Korea, but watching this video makes me scared.
I think public places like this with many people are vulnerable to a terror attack.
Some people worry the threat will only grow if Korea takes more action against the extremist militant group.
I don't think that kind of pessimism doesn't help to solve the problem, because this is exactly what ISIS wants by this kind of a threatening strategy. So ISIS wants all the countries to be scared and all the countries to be passive and step back from their anti-ISIS coalition.
But the Korean government knows that it is better to prevent than lament, and that's why many are waiting for Korea to swiftly pass a pending anti-terror bill. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
Well, Black Friday craze is here. Once exclusively an American holiday shopping tradition, Black Friday has taken hold in many other countries, and that includes Korea. The mega sales event kicked off at midnight in the U.S. and 2 p.m. Korea time. Our Kim Min-ji has more on this shopping extravaganza.
The hunt for the best deal is underway. Black Friday, which refers to the Friday after Thanksgiving in America, is a huge shopping day with retailers across the U.S. offering large discounts, some as much as 90%. The shopping frenzy is a familiar sight in Korea as well. It's become a common household term thanks to Korea's own Black Friday sales event held last month, and eager consumers are turning online looking for big bargains. This shopper has been filling up her shopping cart for the last 2 weeks, browsing for the best deals.
I picked out the items in advance because I can just check for the best prices and make payments right away, which saves time.
The Korean government has expanded the list of tax-free eligible products under $200, and to lure Korean shoppers, some online shopping malls in the U.S. are offering direct delivery services to Korea, as well as Korean language services. There are also companies that complete the order and shipping process for you, and even mobile applications that offer an array of services.
They help calculate taxes and delivery charges and also give advice on what to do when you need a refund.
Last year, Koreans spent nearly $700 million on goods purchased directly from the U.S. during the Black Friday sales period, and that figure is expected to top $1 billion this year. However, it's also spelling trouble for local retailers, as it means they have to come up with better offers to stop consumers from jumping online and spending their money overseas. The Korean government is also mulling ways to turn the Korea Black Friday event into an annual one. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
There was once a time when seeing a foreign student in your class was the unimaginable for the average Korean student. Today, this country has an international student population of nearly 100,000, a tenfold increase from 10 years ago. While this may be a thumbs up for cultural diversity and people-to-people exchange, it's also a source of tension in other areas. Our news feature tonight with our Kwon Jang-ho.
Here at Hanyang University, there are around 2,200 foreign students, about 10% of whom are from Muslim nations. And to cater to their specific needs, and to make them feel more comfortable, the school has been offering halal options since 2013. Not only is halal food at this cafeteria enjoyed by students of this university, but it's enjoyed by students from other schools as well. How's the food?
Yeah, great. Did you have some?
No,
amazing.
Not yet.
It's amazing, really, believe me. As the guys they say, I mean, the previous who studied here, they suffer a lot because they couldn't have a lot of, halal food and stuff like that, because if they want to eat some, they have to go far away.
I'm here at one of the Korea University dorms, where over 50% of the rooms are given out to foreign students. Korea University has over 3,000 foreign students. That's the most amongst Korean universities. Not only does the school provide housing, they also offer Korean language lessons and Korean cultural history lessons, so they get integrated into Korean life faster.
Oh, it's really fun for them, I think. Generally, the reaction is very positive. We like to give students some more informal ways to interact with Korean culture, to learn about Korean culture, and to introduce their culture more broadly to the campus community.
The increase in the number of international students in Korea and its impact can be seen outside the school campus as well. This real estate firm has a particular customer base, foreign students looking for studios in the vicinity, as it's located nearby 4 major universities in Seoul. The firm's website can be found in 4 different languages: Korean, English, Japanese, and Chinese.
The number of international students has been on the rise. The supply of housing has been growing as well because there are now more new or redeveloped apartments in the market. Landlords are also getting more used to the idea of foreign tenants, which is why more international students are moving into this area.
Looking at the demographics of international students in Korea by nationality, the largest number of students come from China, making up over 61% of the total. That is more than 60,000 in number.
Currently, the demographic is skewed, but I think we need to think of this as a starting point as Korea attracts more students from abroad. Eventually, the numbers will even out between different countries.
So how do students feel about the changes brought about by the increase in the number of international students?
It's nice that we get to hear different languages spoken at school.
But it's a little hard when professors don't take into consideration that we have language barriers when we do group projects together.
The exchange students miss out on some information because we don't understand the language, so maybe I should just learn Korean.
I heard that foreign students get priority over Korean students for student housing. I really can't think of any positive aspects of having international students around.
For the Korean students, they help us with the Korean language. Some of the Korean students actually study Arabic, so we can help them with Arabic and they can help them with Korean.
Despite mixed views on the growing international student population, Korea's education ministry appears to be solely focused on increasing that number to 200,000 by year 2023.
I think coming up with a global curriculum where there are foreign students-only classes for certain core courses, but they can take various electives with Korean students and compete with one another would be the ideal way to go.
Sometimes Korean universities are a little bit more standoffish, and so I think that more programs that specifically work to integrate communities, programs that also seek to highlight those different student populations, to promote the cultures of these other students, these international students, that kind of programming is the most valuable thing that can be offered right now.
As the number of foreign students in Korea grows, more consideration and care needs to be taken by the universities and government on how to better integrate the foreign and Korean students so that everyone benefits more. Kwon Jang-ho, Arirang News.
All over France today, blue, white, red flags flew from buildings. 2 weeks ago, Islamic State militants unleashed bombs and bullets on Paris, killing 130 people. Today, France remembered the victims in a memorial ceremony in the capital. Bruce Harrison joins me live in the studio. Bruce, the attacks, they're so fresh in our memories, but France remains defiant.
Hello, Kanyang. You know, one of the major signs of defiance at the ceremony was right front and center. People injured in the attacks were there. They sat in wheelchairs under blankets. Some were even wheeled in on stretchers to pay their respects to those who died in the attacks.
Right, that left quite an impression on me as well. French President François Hollande was there, and he spoke at the ceremony, which was part of the National Day of Mourning there in France. His message.
He talked about democracy, national security, and paying tribute to those that died. But he quickly moved on, according to The Guardian, to the topic of justice. Hollande promised France will do everything in its power to, and these are his own words, destroy the army fanatics who committed these crimes. He said the 130 people killed were murdered by assassins in the name of an insane cause and a distorted God. Islamic State quickly claimed responsibility for the attacks on November 13th, and France stepped up airstrikes in Syria and Iraq against the militant group. France has also moved its flagship Charles de Gaulle aircraft carrier into the eastern Mediterranean to expand the bombing. As France readies its own weapons for a greater assault, it's gaining more support from allies. Germany's now agreed to join the military campaign against Islamic State. President François Hollande asked for Germany's help in a meeting earlier this week with Chancellor Angela Merkel. She promised support, and her government said Thursday it would deploy reconnaissance jets, refueling aircraft, and a frigate to the region.
France has been touched to the quick by the terrible attacks by IS, but we all know that this inhuman rage can also hit us and other societies anytime.
Germany's parliament still has to approve the support, and Berlin's made it clear it will not be joining France, the U.S., and Russia in airstrikes.
Well, moving on to another news, Beijing appears to have banned a beauty pageant finalist from flying into China. Now, Bruce, although China has remained silent about this, the contestant, Canadian Anastasia Lin, spoke about it, and she said it's because she spoke about China's human rights abuses.
Yeah, that's correct. Ms. Lin, or Ms. World Canada, held a press conference at the Hong Kong airport today about being blocked from boarding the plane. She said she couldn't get a visa in advance of her arrival for the contest finals on the Chinese resort island of Hainan. She demanded to know what kind of precedent China thinks it's setting if it wants to host future international events.
Asked them whether they would also bar Olympic athletes from participating in the Winter Olympic Games just because they have different views that the Communist Party don't agree with.
Lin said she didn't know why she was blacklisted by China until she landed in Hong Kong.
Bruce, is there any way that this finalist could still make it to the finals?
The organizing committee of the pageant has said that maybe they'll give her a spot next year, so it doesn't look like it. But the thing is, China may have shot itself in the foot on this one because she could be gaining more exposure from being banned from participating than she actually would have gained if she had been allowed to go to the finals.
Right. This is how you play media, but I guess China isn't aware of that yet. All right, Bruce, thank you so much for that, and we will see you on Monday. Now let's take a look at the latest weather updates with our Jihan. Jihan, simply put, it was freezing today.
Good evening. Yes, it was so cold today. Even sensory temperatures remained below the freezing mark all day long here in the capital. But finally, these cold conditions will ease up a bit tomorrow with daily highs to go up a couple of degrees higher than previous days. But as we can see, daily lows will still remain below 0 degrees Celsius. So be sure to dress warmly when heading out in the morning hours. And you might also want to have an umbrella handy through the weekend. We have another band of snow in the forecast for tomorrow, especially in the western parts of the peninsula, including here in the capital. The snow will start to fall overnight and possibly during the day as well. And accumulation will be ranging from 1 to 3 centimeters. And Sunday is going to be a rainy one with showers in store for the capital area, which could linger until Monday morning. So please do keep that in mind. And rain is also expected to fall next Wednesday, followed by another drop in temperatures, although it's not going to be as dramatic as the one we just had. And on to tomorrow's temperature readings. Low here in the capital will kick out at -2, -1 for Daejeon and Daegu, and 3 over in Busan. And daily highs will be slightly higher than today. Seoul will see a high of 3, 8 for Daegu, and 11 in Busan. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
That is our broadcast on this Friday night. I'm Moon Connyoung. Thanks everyone for watching, and hope you make the most out of the final weekend of November 2015. And we'll see you right back here, same time Monday on NewsCenter.